Real Madrid are now once more at the top of the table. They're 2 points ahead of Barcelona after their loss. And sitting in third is Villarreal, who, despite their loss to Real Madrid, are sitting in that third spot. Real Betis sitting fourth after their 2-1 win over Espanyol. And Atletico Madrid sitting fifth after a 1-1 draw to Celta Vigo. I want to know first the status of Lamine Yamal, because he was absent due to a groin issue, which actually first appeared in September, and he was out of 4 matches because of that. And now he's no longer going to be with the Spanish national team, correct, in the upcoming international break?
Yeah, that's right, Claudia. It's a problem that appeared when he came back from international duty. The first call-up that he got to go and play with Spain, their World Cup qualifiers, played both of those games with Spain, played with pain-killing injections, played the majority of those 2 games, came back to Barcelona and didn't start a match in the whole month of September. He came back against Real Sociedad, played some minutes, played the whole game against PSG, but called back up to the Spain national team only for a few hours later, Barcelona to release a comunicado oficial, a statement saying that he's injured, he's going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks with these recurring groin issues. There has been something of a war of words between Barcelona and the Spanish Football Federation. Hansi Flick was very, very uncomplimentary about the Football Federation, saying that they weren't looking after their players, which is a really massive thing for someone to say about a national team manager. The Spain manager, Luis de la Fuente, was very defiant and said that they hadn't done anything wrong. There's been a real lack of communication between Barcelona and the Spanish Football Federation. Hansi Flick this weekend said, we're trying to work on that. We're trying to talk. We're trying to communicate a little bit better. And they need to, because at the moment they're not seem to understand one another. There is a bit of worry as well, you know. Lamine Yamal, he's only a teenager. These injuries coming back. And they do remember in Barcelona what happened to Pedri 4 years ago. You guys remember, right? He played like 70 games in a season. He played for Barcelona, he played the Euros, he played the Olympics, and then he missed more or less the next year and a half through recurring injury. They don't want that to happen again, and they think Lamine not being too involved or not being involved when he shouldn't be with the Spain national team is key to that.
Phil, you can't talk about Barcelona without talking about the high line, especially as of late PSG exposed it and Sevilla exposed it at will. What's the pressure like on Hansi Flick in terms of tweaking the possible high line, or just pressure overall? Because it's a big club, it's a poor result.
Yeah, I'm beginning to see now something that I hadn't seen over the last few months, and that is voices in the Catalan media suggesting that maybe something needs to be done here. I read an article in one of the Catalan papers today that called them extremely naive. They've gone from being brave to being extremely naive with playing this high line. It reminds me a little bit of Ange Postecoglou, whose idea was Plan B is to do Plan A better, and that seems to be what Hansi Flick is thinking here with this high line. You know, this is how he wants to play. He wants to make sure that everybody understands it, and I think the loss of Iñigo Martínez is a big thing. We thought it was big at the time when he left to go to Saudi Arabia in the summer, and it has proved the case because he was very, very important in implementing that. Ronald Araujo is a defender who would be much more comfortable defending a little bit deeper. I think it's fair to say. So there are issues there, but Hansi Flick, he's not going to change. He's going to do this again. And remember, and I always do say this to people who bring up the high line, with this high line, they won the domestic treble last season, and they were very, very close to getting to the Champions League final. So the high line, when it works, it needs everybody fully switched on, fully concentrated. When it works, it's absolutely brilliant. It's just when there's a little drop in concentration, that's when the problems arise. And that's what we've seen with Barcelona in the last few games.
So Phil, am I hearing you right? Because we had this discussion about a month ago here, right? About the high line, or as opposed to managing games differently at the end, which they didn't do last year in the Champions League semifinal, right? So are you flipping here that they need to get rid of this? And do you think Hansi Flick has it in him to get rid of this? Because as you mentioned, they won an awful lot last year playing exactly this way.
Yeah, I don't think they need to get rid of it. I think they need to implement it better. And even Pedri said after the game against Sevilla, sometimes we pushed up and played that offside trap when we didn't need to. So I think it's understanding when they need to implement it, how they need to do it, not just getting rid of the idea altogether, because it's part of how they play. They squash up, they push up, which is pushes everybody further up the pitch. It helps with recovering the ball high up the pitch, and they attack better when they defend higher up. It's all part of a bigger plan, guys. It's all part of Hansi Flick's idea, which he doesn't look like he's going to scrap anytime soon. He was actually, after this game against Sevilla, he was quite positive. I mean, strangely positive. He didn't seem too downbeat. He was saying, I was really happy with the second half reaction. It wasn't too bad. Now we'll work on things and correct some errors, when really Barcelona weren't at the game call. Pau Kubasi said they came out and they were still asleep. Pedri said they didn't even know what to do with the ball when they had it. It was a really poor performance, but Hansi Flick wasn't getting too carried away. He thinks there are a few things that he needs to correct, probably with that high line, and they'll be okay again.
Phil, when you look at the Barcelona back line, so many of the same names that were there from last season, bar one player, and Iñigo Martínez, how much does this Barcelona team miss him right now at this point in the season?
Massively, both on and off the pitch as well, because he was really one of the leaders in the dressing room at Iñigo Martínez. Very experienced, big character, big personality off the pitch, and on the pitch he was a massive leader as well. And he was he was the leader of the high line. He was telling everybody, and everybody sort of looked to him to lead this step up when they had to play it. And he's not there anymore. And now Ronald Araujo is there, and he is not someone who is comfortable in this kind of position. Eric Garcia seemingly understood it a little bit better, but Eric Garcia has been playing centre-back. He's been playing right-back. There have been changes. Eric Garcia has been playing right-back, whereas Jules Koundé played every single game last season. So there have been changes across this back line. Remember, Balde's been out. Gerard Martin's been playing at left-back as well. It has not been a settled back four with that kind of almost like robotic understanding that you need between those four players to play this high line. So if he does get everybody back fit, everybody back switched on, then maybe they can recover what we saw last season.
Phil, let's go to the attacking part of the field. A lot of injuries there. Obviously, Rafinha and Yamal. Marcus Rashford comes in the summer. He's probably playing a little bit bigger role than we thought early days. Just your thoughts on his performance so far?
Yeah, I think it's going to get lost in the analysis of the 4-1 defeat to Sevilla at the weekend, but it was actually a really good performance from Marcus Rashford, who scored his first league goal for Barcelona, and he's putting up some pretty decent numbers at the moment. It's 3 goals and 4 assists in 10 matches in all competitions, and you're right, Tony, he's playing a bit more than we thought he was going to play, primarily because of those injuries to Marcus Rashford and Lamine Yamal. Also, Fermin Lopez isn't there, so there's issues at number 10 for Barcelona. So it means that Marcus Rashford is getting more minutes. I think he's understanding a bit more what the team want from him, and I think also he's offering something a little bit more different in terms of aggressive, direct running, which isn't necessarily what Lamine Yamal or Rafinha can bring. And his delivery from set pieces has been really, really strong as well. And that is something that other Barcelona players have been talking about. They are leading La Liga in goals from set pieces. And that is not a part of Barcelona's play that we associate with the beautiful tiki-taka football, scoring from set pieces. But they are. And Marcus Rashford has been a key part of that as well, with his deliveries from corners and free kicks.
Okay, El Clasico is coming up. We talked about Barcelona. Let's talk about Real Madrid. And Vinny Jr. is looked a completely different player from the disgruntled and really out-of-touch player we saw last season. He's in form. He's getting called up to the Brazilian national team. So what's changed for Vinny Jr., and what's the state of the relationship with him and Xabi Alonso?
I thought you were going to ask me about another relationship. There was a big story.
No, that's for the late night podcast.
Yeah. Okay. I think there was a big story in one of the Spanish newspapers about how he's got a new girlfriend, and she was in the Bernabeu on Saturday night to see him score, and he was dedicating the goals to her. We don't need to break down the analysis to that, but I think he has looked a little bit more comfortable. I think there's a general recognition from the manager and from his teammates as well that, we need Vinny Jr. to be at his best. And Kylian Mbappé gave him the penalty at the weekend to take, and I think that's really significant, actually. You know, Kylian Mbappé is the designated Real Madrid penalty taker. He is the one who's supposed to take the penalties. He is the one who's trying to score as many goals as possible, and yet he gave it to Vin. He said, you know what, mate, I think you might need this. Take it and score it, which he did. So we are seeing Vinicius Jr. I think it's kind of like a knock-on effect, isn't it? Like the better he plays, the better he feels. The better he plays, the better he feels, etc., etc. So he's feeling better. The relationship with Xabi Alonso, it's different to the one he had with Carlo Ancelotti. And Carlo Ancelotti is a very different manager, a very different man manager, and he had a really special relationship with Vinny. He absolutely loved him. He trusted him. He backed him in every difficult moment that Vinicius Jr. had during his Real Madrid career. I'm not saying Xabi Alonso won't do that, but Xabi Alonso is different. And Xabi Alonso is giving everybody a chance. And it's almost like a clean slate here. It doesn't matter what happened previously. I want you to prove that you're worthy of a place in this starting 11. And a few weeks ago, we were talking about Rodrigo and Vinícius and who's going to start. And maybe there's going to be more minutes for Rodrigo. Well, Rodrigo's had some minutes. He hasn't taken advantage of them. Vinny has. And we're going to see him play a lot more on that left-hand side.
Phil, one last one for me, only because you said he's giving everybody a chance. How about Endrick, someone who's not really getting a chance right
Endrick.
now?
Yeah. He's the only outfield player who doesn't have any minutes this season, and it's. Listen, he was injured at the Club World Cup. He was coming back from injury. It was actually a worse injury than initially thought. But he's been in the last 5 matchday squads, and he hasn't played a minute. I think he's only warmed up in one of those games as well. So it's a pretty... I don't want to... Well, it is a clear message to Endrick that, listen, you are way down the pecking order here. Gonzalo Garcia is ahead of him. Brahim Diaz is ahead of him. Rodrigo is ahead of him. Mastantuono. These are all players who are ahead of Endrick to play anywhere across that front 3 or front 2. And so Endrick, if he wants to continue to develop, is going to have to, I think, go out on loan and get some minutes. Because at the moment, he's not being given a chance. Maybe the Copa del Rey will come in January. But the fact that these minutes are being shared around means that every game is precious now. Every game has players coming into the team desperate to show Xabi Alonso what they can do and make the most of it. So it doesn't look particularly good for Endrick at the moment, and it does feel like a loan would benefit everybody at the moment.